Hello and welcome to the morning sports briefing here on Friday, the 11th of December. And yes, we have a bumper edition for you this morning. We've got news around the cricket with the second test about to start. In rugby, we have news from the -10 or Provincial Rugby about concussions around the test for the All Blacks next year, as well as Super Rugby in there as well. We have some fantastic news in the squash about as Joel King progresses at the black ball tournament that she's at. There's also news around Syndicate pulling out of the America's Cup officially now. Shane Van Gisbergen is going to race out, is down to race at the New Zealand Grand Prix. The indoor athletics have postponed in 2021. We've got golf action with the Women's US Open. And we also have rugby league news as well. So, as I say, a bumper edition this morning to help you start your day the best way, up to speed with all of the important sports news. Hi, I'm Paul, and let's crack straight on with it then, shall we? So in the cricket, we have three matches of note to talk about this morning that are going ahead. First up, we have the second test happening down in Wellington. And Kane Williamson will be missing. The Black Caps captain will be missing to be with his family for the birth of his child. So clearly, the man who put all the runs, well, not all the runs, but a big chunk of the runs on the board for that opening test win will be missing. And so the other players will need to step up and fill that gap. We're still waiting for the 100th 100. Down there at the Basin Reserve. Basin Reserve, I think that's the name of the venue, isn't it? Down in Wellington as well. So yes, all excitement around that second test starting today. Also starting today, the New Zealand A will be playing West Indies A, and that's game is happening down in Nelson. So look forward to following that one as well. We'll keep you up to date with how that 4-day match goes over the weekend. And then finally, Australia A are playing Indians, or the India A as well, in a day-night 50-over game. 3-day game, sorry, three-day match, but it's a day-night match over in Australia, and we'll keep you up to date with how that one progresses as well over the next few days. So lots of cricket starting today. So let's get into that exciting news for Joel King. She beat the world number 2 in the CIB Black Ball Squash Open in Cairo, winning 11-9, 11-5, 11-9, so in straight sets. Gobar has been struggling with injury since returning from the lockdown, but still had made it to the quarterfinal stage, winning her first 2 games in 5 sets. Joel King set about playing a very fast and physical game to test the Egyptian and saw her way through to the semi-finals. It's her first semi-final of the year. There she will be facing the 5th seed English player Sarah Jane Perry to see in the semi-finals, to see who makes it through to the final. She overcame overcame a 5th seed. She overcame Camille Sumin of France, who was the 3rd seed. So 2 upsets there in the quarterfinals heading into that semi-final. So obviously we will keep you up to speed with how Joel goes in the semi-final and hopefully final as well in the Black Ball Open in Cairo. Over in the America's Cup, and we've finally had the official withdrawal of Stars and Stripes Team USA. We've known for a while that was most likely to happen ever since they weren't allowed to borrow a boat off one of the other teams for one of the early qualifying rounds. They've been struggling with financial problems, and I say it's not a surprise that they haven't made it. So that means that the fleet will be Ineos Team UK, American Magic, and Luna Rosa contesting the Prada Cup to see who will take on Emirates Team New Zealand in the America's Cup. Unfortunate there that it's just down to 3 challenging syndicates, not the 4. Over in motor racing, Shane van Gisbergen has been confirmed to be racing in the New Zealand Grand Prix early next year. It is dependent on travel restrictions, as he has to be back in Australia for supercar action, so it's going to depend on whether he can get on what travel restrictions are in place at the time, and quarantining, etc. Fantastic to have him in that. Obviously a supercar champion, but also did very well in the rallying that was held in Auckland, and so clearly a driver who has multi-talents. Yes, in open cockpit, this will be an interesting one for him. It'll be a change from the closed cars that he is used to. Over in athletics, and the World Athletics Indoor Championships for 2021 have been postponed. They were to be held in Nanjing. The 2022 championships will now be held in Belgrade, and Nanjing will get to host them in 2023. Nanjing was supposed to host them in 2020, but obviously that got postponed due to COVID, and now the 2021 one has also as well. Therefore, the athletics. Over in rugby league, and the 3 Auckland-based franchises, the Karana Falcons, Counties Manukau Stingrays will team up to form an under-20s or 2 under-20s teams for the NZNRL National Under-20 competition that will kick off in February next year. They'll be playing as Auckland Blue and Auckland White, which is great to see. That we'll have the 2 Auckland teams being joined by Northland, Waikato Bay or Waikato Bay of Plenty, Gisborne, Hauraki and Coastline, as well as a Lower North Island and a South Island team. So great to see the collaboration happening in Auckland to grow the game up there. Moving on then to the rugby, and a number of announcements yesterday. I say a busy one with the rugby. New Zealand Rugby announced that they're planning to play 15 All Blacks tests in 2021. Definitely at the upper limit or the upper end of how many test matches the All Blacks do play in a year. That includes their first game against Fiji in about a decade, I think it is now, and also hosting Italy for 2 games. Obviously, being a Lions tour next year, that means that England, Ireland, Scotland, and Wales are not available to tour during that mid-year window. 13 of the 15 games have been announced, and they're looking at adding 2 more games around the November window. So we'll wait on news about that. Also, New Zealand Rugby announced that whilst that they are hoping that the Fiji and Manoa Pacifica teams will be ready for Super Rugby in 2022, that there is a hard road ahead and a lot of work still to be done. So a warning there that it is not a foregone conclusion that these sides will be joining in 2022. So a lot of work still to be done in that space. Finally, the final announcement from New Zealand Rugby was around Provincial Rugby. So the Farrell Palmer Cup will be reverting back to a Premiership and Championship format next year. And also there'll be a 10% cut in funding for the provinces from New Zealand Rugby. So we'll have to see how that impacts things. Yesterday, I posted up my interview with the general manager of Southland on our Facebook and YouTube channels, as well as putting it out as a podcast as well. So you can catch up with that interview with, and I've just lost his name, Michael Stephen, I think it is, from memory. Also, today, this morning, I'm interviewing Cameron Bell, the general manager for Northland. So both ends of the countries, both general managers. This is their first year as general managers of provinces, hence that's why I'm going to talk to them. But we'll see how much Cameron can tell us about what may or may not be happening with the Minor 10 Cup and how they'll cope with that reduction in funding. The Minor 10 Cup format is still to be decided. New Zealand Rugby says that there is not a consensus amongst the stakeholders, and so there'll be more discussions before they agree on what format it will take. Rumours were that it might take that north-south format, but having seen that the Farrell Palmer Cup is reversing back from that, you think that would be a strange way to go. It's all about cost, though, and how they can reduce costs whilst still also making it a pathway for rugby players to come through. Moving on then to the and also there's been more news around the concussion side of things. One of the players has brought out his 15 commandments of changes that he believes rugby needs to make it safer for concussion. I'll be looking at putting together a for your ears only supporters special show for that. If you would like to become a supporter of New Zealand Sports Radio, then head over to nzsportradio.com and you can join there, or you can head to patreon.com/NZ Sport Radio. And I say we'll be giving you some more news around that concussion side of things in a special episode on there. Finally, let's move on then to the golf. And in the golf, we have a couple of tournaments going ahead at the moment. We have the US Open in the LPGA with two Kiwi golfers involved there. They are both on the course at the moment. Amelia Garvey is at evens after 3 holes in her opening round. And Lydia Ko, when I last looked, was at 1 over. I'm just trying to find her now. Yep, she's still at 1 over after 4 holes in her opening round as well. That puts her down in tied at 73rd. So some ground to make back up. Currently, American Kang leads the way after 6 holes at 4 under par in that one. There is also the DP World Tour Championship taking place in the PGA European Tour. They have finished their first round, and Frenchman Perez leads away at 5 under par. There are no Kiwis involved in that tournament. Just to remind you that the PGA over in the USA is taking a break until the 7th of January is their next event. You have now started the day the best way up to speed with all the important sports news. Don't forget, you can also listen to us as a podcast as well. Just search for New Zealand Sports Radio on your favourite podcatcher. Boy, that was a bumper edition. Lots and lots of sports going on. And as we head into the weekend, folks, it's nearly here. Do enjoy whatever sport you're watching or getting involved with this weekend.